We'll move right into the council agenda. If you'll all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, followed by our invocation. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you bow with me, please? Dear gracious and heavenly Father, we ask your guidance and your blessings on those of us that will make decisions tonight that will affect the people of the great city of Payable, Alabama. We pray that anything that we do and say will please you, dear Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Striplin. Here. Councillor Wood. Here. Councillor Brown. Here. Councillor Miller. Here. Councillor Reniger.
Here.
Councillor Bowles. Here. Councillor Fank.
Here. We are officially convened. The character trait for this month, is determination, proposing to accomplish right goals at the right time, regardless of the opposition. Fellow council members, you should have received minutes of the city council meeting from April the 3rd and also the work session of April the 9th. At this time, the chair will entertain any additions, deletions, or corrections to the approved minute, or to the minutes, rather. Are there any? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Striplin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor of approving these minutes signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Yeah, that's all right. At this time, we'll open up the floor. We'll open it up to the floor for comments from persons present that would like to address the council on anything on tonight's agenda. It must be on tonight's agenda, but if you'd like to address the council on any or all of these items, please raise your hand to be recognized. Mr. Brandt. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Lonnie Brandt. I'm at 258 Cherry Lane. Resolution number 2, it talks about $10,000 being spent for consulting services. Can you give me a general idea of what consulting they're going to provide?
Councilor Striplin, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. We have, this is a resolution that was presented previously, and the recommendation for this evening is such that we're going to request that it be voted down, but it was for consulting services to assist the wastewater department as they begin a new entity as an enterprise fund to provide services for a master plan, budgeting, capital improvements, and so forth.
So if you're going to recommend voting it down, can you give me the general reason why you were going to recommend voting it down?
The mayor said he would take care of that.
Oh, okay. Resolution number 4, talking about a special needs baseball field. Is this application involve just the organization spending their own money for the baseball field, or is the city supposed to spend some money?
No, sir. The city will be the sponsor or a pass-through organization. We will not be obliged for the debt, nor will we be spending any money. The YMCA will take care of the match.
Oh, okay. Resolution number 5, to provide some engineering services not to exceed $113,000. Net cost to city to not to exceed a little over $22,000. Anybody give me a general idea what engineering services we're talking about?
I'm going to call on our city engineer, Mr. Anderson, to answer that question for you. Mr. Anderson?
Good evening. This is a continuation of a project that began in 2009, which was the widening of Mcqueen Smith Road from East Main Street all the way to US 31. We have been through several phases of the study so far, and there are some additional items of work that are now required. The number one thing that came out of the public hearing we held at the YMCA was the need to signalize the intersection at Tara and McQueen Smith. And because of the way the DOT does things, we didn't know that until we went to the public hearing, so it was not in the original contract. Now we're adding that in. There's quite a few other items that have come to bear as we've gone through the study, done the preliminary surveys, and gotten the alignment set for the road, that we've come to know that we need to do some more things. Some additional work with the water lines is one. We're actually proposing some additional turn lanes at McQueen Smith Road and Cobbs Ford Road, some work on Cobbs Ford that wasn't initially proposed, additional right-hand turn lane in one direction and additional left in the other. In addition to that, this project is now stretched will be in 2013, and so there's some additional standards that have to be met there. There's some additional stormwater standards that were not in effect from ADEM at the time of the initial contract. We're adding those in. And also some standards that have been placed from the Federal Highway Administration in their initial 30% review with capacity issues. In our statement of need for the project, we said that additional capacity was a need, and so they're now asking us to further document that need, which basically show how much traffic there is and what the level of service is. So all those services are included here. One thing I would like to take this opportunity to point out, we're asking for this to be voted on tonight so we can begin the process with the DOT, but we will be requesting from next year's budget the funds. Actually, that's why it doesn't show what line item they're coming from this year. It's going to take us that long to get to that point, but we have to get started. We'll submit, if this is approved tonight, we will submit it to the DOT. They will review it, and then we'll back and forth. We'll execute it, but this work will not be done until the next fiscal year. It's just one of the things that takes a while to do. When we're using 80% federal funds, it takes a while to get through all the steps of approval. Does that satisfy you? I'll be happy to answer any other questions y'all have while I'm up here.
Amen.
Yes,
Councilor Wood?
Just one question, Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Approximately how long do you expect this project to take now that you're possibly going another 5 years or so?
I would hope that we could get it done. It's just gone on. At this time, we still do not have an approved environmental document, which has been 2 years in the making. So it's hard for me to say when the Federal Highway Administration is going to act on that. We're going to certainly pursue it. I would hope that, later this year we would be in a position to have another public hearing and do that review with the plans. And at that point, be moving forward with funding the actual project in the next 3 to 5 years. I think that would be a fair assessment.
Thank you.
Councilor Fink?
Yes, Mr. Anderson, just a couple of quick questions. The scope of the work, does it include bike paths on this? And it may be too late to get that included. If we don't, is it possible?
It doesn't include bike path, but it does include a wide sidewalk, 8-foot wide path beside it. It's not bikes only. It's going to be pedestrian and bike, but it does include that.
Because I'd like for us, and you know this, you and I have had this conversation, I just want to publicly state it, I'd like for us to, whenever we're doing projects like this, to try to incorporate in pedestrian-friendly and bike path-friendly areas as much as we possibly can.
Well, your suggestion certainly well heeded, but also going to be a requirement from Federal Highway Administration.
Great.
So
Great. Thank you.
We will at least have to, if we don't do it in the final now, it will have to be justified to not do it instead of the other way around. We won't be asking to do it. If we don't, we will have to ask not to do it, which you see on the first phase of the Old Farm Lane widening, the shared lane out there, another exact result of this.
Councilor Miller?
I guess a follow-up question to that, is the 8 feet immediately adjacent to the pavement, or is there a space between?
There'll be a space similar to the existing sidewalk that's out there. I don't know if you've noticed it's spaced over. The 8 feet will be at the back side of the right-of-way, and then there will be a grass area between that and the running lane.
Yeah, okay,
Now, I
thank you.
can't tell you exactly how much that is, and of course, it will vary. In front of Sears, it will be closer.
Mm-hmm.
As we get further down to undeveloped, it will move away. So,
Thanks.
Let me make sure, Mr. Brown, are you getting your questions answered with all this conversation? Okay, I just want to make sure that we're addressing your questions. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
I have a couple of things. They're not on the agenda. Do I say them now or wait till later?
It would be better to wait till we close out
Okay,
the agenda
I'll
and
wait till
then
later.
bring it back up.
That's all
Because
I
we're going to
have,
open
then.
it back up.
That's
Thank you.
all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions pertaining to tonight's agenda? Okay. We'll move on to the mayor's report. Mayor?
Yes, sir, and thank you. And if you will indulge me again, it seems like it's a common occurrence right lately, but if you could, I'd like to present a proclamation to our character coalition. If Mr. Lewis and whoever, little David Lewis, if he'll come on up. And Ms. Boo Rogers, as everyone here I'm certain knows, and they are the big driving force behind our character group here in Payable. And as we all know, is at the beginning of the council meetings, how we read the character trait for the month off, and these are some of the big David is going to be the big reason why we do that, I would say. But anyway, whereas character is defined as the qualities built in an individual's life that determines his or her response regardless of circumstances, whereas citizens of Payable and Ottawa County recognize the importance of honorable character qualities based upon the moral standards held by our founding fathers on which they established our nation and legal system. Whereas character is the foundation for everything that happens in a community, good character determines positive attitudes and actions, as a lack of good character creates an equal negative impact, whereas in an effort to encourage the use of good character traits and to demonstrate the importance of good character for the common good, the Payable-Ottawa Character Coalition was formed in 2007 to promote good character among our citizens, whereas character education is now taught in many of our schools, used as topic of sermons, speeches, and programs, become an absolute necessity in the home and workplace, largely due in part to the Payable-Ottawa Character Coalition. Now, therefore, I, Bill Gillespie, Jr., Mayor of the City of Payable, Alabama, do proclaim the week of April 15th through the 21st, 2012 is Character Week in the City of Payable, and I do certainly appreciate everything that you guys have done. You've made an impact on our lives, and actually there's been some things I want to be talking about and through the rest of my mayor's report that will reflect some of this. But thank you for what you guys have done. And actually, one of the things I was going to talk about right after the Character Week was the fact that this is actually National Volunteer Week. And today, earlier, I was over at the River Region Volunteer of the Year celebration, which I see Dr. Tom Miller over there and some other people from Payable. But actually, we did have a group. It was the Togga Creek Improvement Committee. They were actually nominated. They did not win the award today, but they were nominated. So I think it shows a lot for that group, just for them to be nominated. But in the meantime, while I was over there, I actually got a phone call. It was from a lady. I'm just going to use her name as Amy C. And she was called to give me a report about an police officer of ours, Greg Ballner. She said that she was having car issues, and he was so kind to stop. And actually, she was just needing some oil in her car, and he left, went and got her some oil, paid for it, brought it back, installed it, and did not accept a dime for it. And she just called to give real praise for his actions there. She said that it made a major difference in her life today because she was having one of those mornings, one of those days that, and she said that Mr. Greg Bonner was just an angel that she was looking for at that point in time. And she actually went on to say that it's things like this is what's make Payable Payable. And she just really wanted to thank the officer there, and there will be a combination put in his files there. I've already talked with Chief of Police on that. But also I want to go on to say that while being at this Volunteer of the Year celebration, had me thinking, and as I looked around the council chambers tonight, if we really looked around and see exactly who volunteers in this room, I think that you'll find you'll probably have at least 75% or more that are volunteers. And if it wasn't for the volunteerism, we probably wouldn't have quite the quality of life that we do here in Prattville. And so I just really want to thank each and everybody who do volunteer for this region, whether it be over in the Montgomery, the River region, or right here in Prattville. But it's really, I think, truly does make a difference in our quality of our life. As I move further along with that, after that, at this point in time, I really like to have a little more indulgence and actually have John Paul O'Driscoll. He is here. I think he's just fresh out of the county commission meeting, and I think he wants to mention a program that he has in the works. So if you'll indulge me again.
Thank you. Right there.
While he's bringing the rest of his stuff up, I'll go ahead and get it started a little bit for him. It's he's going to have one of his annual events, the Pratt Plaza, I believe it is, and I think he has some items for each and every one of you guys.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Paul O'Driscoll, and I'm the Solid Waste Officer for Otago County, but also the Chair for Otago County PALS, and I have a handout for you. So.
Have you cleared this through the Ethics Committee? That was a joke.
That's yours.
A bad one.
Thank you again. Spring cleanup is coming up at the end of the month. This is a statewide event, and here in Otago County PALS has been organising spring cleanup in conjunction with the Otago Creek Improvement Committee. So together we will be coordinating our cleanup. We'll be set up at Pratt Plaza like usual, and the Otago Creek Improvement Committee will be down at Fat Boys. So we're looking for volunteers to come out to clean up, pick up litter, and I've had Judge Colley send folks to me who need time to, but we send people out on the roadsides, out in the county and the city to clean up, and then we bring everything back to pot it up. So your help would be appreciated in getting volunteers. Any churches that want to clean up, I've got tons of bags, like this box here of bags. So we got a shipment of those in early in the month, so we can cover the whole county. Also, in conjunction with spring cleanup, we've been working on a new initiative with the Master Gardeners and Garden Clubs called the Beautification Litter Free Award. This is a brainchild of Ms. Sid Thompson to recognize homes and businesses, schools and government properties that are clean and look good. And this is something that we'll be doing together with Master Gardeners. We will be accepting nominations from anyone. And we have a nomination form that will be in public places, and we would like to put a drop box here, library and other places, but you can nominate your home or anyone else's home or business and we will give these to the master gardeners, and then once a quarter, winning entries will be announced publicly. And this is the yard sign that will go on the front yard for winning candidates. And this is going to be countywide as well as citywide. So, but this will go on the front yard for winning entries 4 times a year. And so we're hoping to get this started this quarter, and then I'll be collecting nominations once a quarter soon. So if you have any questions, my number is on here, but we are looking for nominations to get the program started. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the last attachment there is the electronic recycling, which we will be having on May the 12th, again at Pratt Plaza, and we'll be collecting electronics as we have in the past, and we encourage anyone to come and recycle their electronics with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Paul, for coming down and bringing that for us, and thank you for all the hard work that you've given our community, because it really shows a difference. Even though we still have to have crews that go out and pick up litter and trash, but I think it's a lot better than what it has been in the past. Some of the items I was going to talk about have already been discussed. Resolution number 4, which is about the special needs ball field. It's no cost to the city on that, so I won't go into that. Resolution number 5, our city engineer Robbie Anderson gave a good report on that, so there's no need me going any further on that. But would like to say that this coming Thursday we have Magic on Main, which is it's about food, fun, and entertainment that PDU or Prattville Downtown Unlimited is putting on. And if you're looking for something to do on Thursday evenings, come downtown and you'll see some events going on. There's going to be some food vendors. There's going to be some live entertainment. It's just the way that the downtown merchants are trying to give back to the community there. On Friday night, we actually have Relay for Life at the Prattville East YMCA. And so there again, Friday night, if you don't have anything else, come on out and give back in that way. Saturday, we have several different events going on there at Pratt Park. That morning, we have Touch a Truck, which is at Pratt Park. The Humane Shelter is having Bark in the Park that afternoon at Cooter's Pond. And then back over here at our Creative Arts Center, we have our Way Off Broadway show. I went to it Saturday, and it was all the King's Women, and it was very entertaining. So there again, if you're looking for some different events, there's several nights right there. You don't have to look very far to get entertained. I did mention earlier about how this is National Volunteer Week and have our own different volunteers all around Prattville. I just want to thank there again, Officer Varner on that, and all the city employees who do go out in some shape, form, or fashion and give back. The other thing I do need to mention is that we're having 3 open positions in our sanitation department, and I'm going to ask that that you guys give me the authority to fill those 3 positions at our next council meetings, and if you can move forward on that, because I know I had instructed our sanitation department head, Edward Clinton, to start reporting to everybody about the status of our employees and the status of the trash and the garbage pickup. And so I know we're all aware, and then especially as we get into the summer months, how much harder, much more difficult that job can be. And I can only say that I really do tip my hat and commend those guys for the hard work that they do for the city in that area, because I've mentioned this before with the wastewater department. Can you imagine not being able to flush your toilet for a few days? Well, can you imagine not being able to pick up your garbage or having nowhere to put your garbage for a week or something along that line? So if you can move forward with that, and if you do see any of our city employees out there working hard, give them a pat on the back, because they do deserve it. They've been through quite a bit, as we all have here lately, and I think they deserve it. One other thing I do want to mention, 2 other things I want to mention, then I will leave you guys. It's been approximately a year since the tornadoes have come through here, and I went to an event just the other night about Boone's Chapel in that area, and so we've been very lucky over the last year. No matter we've had our challenges, I think we've come through them, but at least we didn't have some of the same challenges as Booth Chapel and the other areas around the state. We did talk about the IT study at the Finance Committee meeting, and if there's any additional information that the other councilors want, it's readily available through our Finance Director on that, and we are still looking into some of the recommendations that were brought before us on that. Besides that, I believe that covers my report.
Any questions for the mayor at this time from any of the council members? Councilor Miller?
I don't know if you are prepared to give an update, but we had talked a few weeks ago about a policy for all the 5Ks and half marathons and those sorts of things, in terms of city support and the police, commitment for those different events. Do you have any kind of update on where we are with that?
I don't have a true update on it. I can give you some of the thought processes that I've been going through. I have not pulled another committee together on that yet, but one of the thought processes that I've been having is to get all the different organizations that participate in those fun runs and those different events, and actually have them have a large event for the city of Prattville. Maybe it might be a half marathon or a bi-marathon or tri-marathon or something along that line, and really try to make it a big over-the-top one. And through that, hopefully the proceeds from that would be able to pay for the different fun runs and everything that they have during the year. So that way it's not quite as much of a burden on them, and I think it'd be a win-win. But that's just one of the things I've been sort of kicking around for that, to cut costs in that area. I do have some other ones. I'll try to get a committee together and get a report to you in the very near future on that. I'll take that as no other questions, and I'll be glad to sit down.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
This time we will get into our report on the status of city finances. Our Finance Director, Mr. Mosley, will give us that. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
What kind of good news have you got to report to us today?
I have all kinds of good news. Provided everyone with the revenue report for the month of March. As you'll see, for the month of March, we brought in $2.9 million. The year-to-date so far number on the revenue is $17.5 million. That's a total of 54.37% of the budgeted amount. As you'll know, we're 50% through the year, but there are some accruals that happen with some of the revenue lines. Some of those are technically at 41.67% through the year, and some of them are 50. So either way, we're ahead of the curve on that. One thing I want to point out, because I've pointed this out the last couple of meetings, is the business license revenue. As you'll see this month, it's actually 2.64% over last year at this point. If you'll remember, the last several months we've been behind because of lack of staff in the department. We're finally caught up on that, and so that's the reason we're actually ahead now. Some of the lagging items under revenue, lodging tax, again, is still lagging. Alcohol tax and rental tax. But overall, everything's looking really well and trending really well through the year. The next set of information is the expense information. Pretty much everything is right in line with where we should be through the year. Most everything is running below budget, or should I say under budget, which is a very good thing, which they're not spending. They've spent less through the year than the time period we are through the year. Like for instance, city clerk department, they've spent 47.21% of their budget for salaries and wages, but we're 50% through the year. So that's a very good thing. The big takeaway from the expense information, operationally, to this date, we have spent $1.4 million less this year than last year. which is a very good thing, especially considering where we ended up with last year's audit report and how great things looked, or how much better things looked. It looks like we're well on track to continue that. The next couple of sheets are the income statements for the wastewater and sanitation departments. As you'll see, both of those departments are now running in the black. They have caught up and are funding themselves. And as you'll see, the revenue and expenses are running right on track with where they are in the year. Let's see. There's also another couple of sheets that are behind that information. Mr. Striplin asked about some fire department statistics that were not included in the statistical section of the financial statements that was added this year. Those sheets represent that information, and we'll be adding that in for this next year. We just have a standard template that is kind of a starting point, and we can add whatever information we want to those statements. But he asked for the information. It is some rather valuable information, so I provided it to everyone. On the debt service payment that's coming up at the beginning of May, the $1 million has been deposited in the debt service reserve account, and we will be transferring that money over to Regions more than likely by the end of the week, so that those funding accounts can be already there when it's time to pay those payments. The accounts payable, all of our accounts payable is 30 days or less still through the year. The group health accounts, we owe 2 months right now, which equals $335,000. So we're catching up on that. And that's pretty much everything I have.
Any questions for Mr. Mosley from the council? Councilor Bowles.
Okay, looks great, not fussing. A little curious, we budgeted $8,418,000 for debt service. Year to date, we spent $6,981,000. If I'm not mistaken, we have in October a $3 million payment. Is that in this, or has that already been paid for this budget year?
That has not. The one for one for October, no, it has not, because it will be in next fiscal years.
So that's not.
That's not included in this.
So that was already paid previously.
Correct. This is what's already been paid.
So once we pay the $1 million, we only have a few payments left over for the budget year.
Correct. And plus, we paid the line of credit down,
right,
which was $1 million also, which adds to the amount of what we've paid
year to date. And overall, it looks like we spent 53% for the year, but I want to make a note that 82% has gone to debt service, so we've way overpaid our debt service for the year, which is a great thing to be ahead of the ball on that. So I really appreciate this good report. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Mosley from the council? Councilor Miller.
Mr. Mosley, is it possible to get a report on the health care account that's similar to the one you do for wastewater and sanitation?
It's funny you should ask that. I'm actually working on something with Jackson and Thornton. In the accounting world, there's something that's called an internal service fund. It's similar to an enterprise fund, but not as extensive. It's created for pieces of services that are provided to different departments within an organization. And I have talked to them about the possibility of creating an internal service fund for the health care fund. And if we do that, we can have a very clear picture of the health of the health care fund, and it would kind of clear up what is happening on our books, in the general fund books, because the numbers that are hitting the hospital insurance line item in the general fund, claims are hitting that, and then the offset is the actual employee deduction. Right now, nothing is showing where the city is putting money into the health care fund. If we do change this, the claims and the employee deductions will go into the internal service fund, general ledger line items, and the only thing that would hit the city's funds, general ledger line items, is the actual money that city puts over into the internal service fund. which is a very clear picture of what the city is spending, not necessarily just the health care fund.
Yeah, I'm grinning because of your pun. We definitely want a healthy healthcare fund, but in particular, the reserve and building it and having that, I guess, made whole as soon as we can. And I know it's a long process, but we're moving in the right direction. But that sounds like you're on the right track to produce something similar to these. But I would ask that you make sure that includes the status of the reserve fund, what our goal is for the entire year, and where we are in terms of percent, and moving along to
Right.
achieve
The
that.
only thing that we haven't paid, the general fund hasn't paid, is March and April, which equals $330,000.
So the balance now is roughly?
I think it's $1.3 million right now.
Okay, in the healthcare fund?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, you had your hand up? Okay. Any other counselors have anything to address Mr. Mosley? Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Excellent report, as usual. Keep that positive news coming. I will be remiss if I do not do this when I'm thinking about it. We have a distinguished member of the Board of Education from Watauga County with us tonight, Mr. Jeffrey Keith. Jeff, it's great to have you with us. We'll move forward with reports from the council committees. Councilor Striplin, do you have a report?
Only to the extent that would request that the wastewater and sanitation committee members let me know their availability for a committee meeting in the near future. Thank you.
Councilor Wood? No report. Councilor Brown?
No report.
Councilor Miller?
Yeah, if I could have a point of privilege.
Yes, sir, by all means.
I think most of you know I missed last meeting because I was on a mission trip, my first ever medical mission trip to the Dominican Republic, and I could talk all night about that. I will tell you that for me, the timing in my life and the experience were essentially a life-changing event, and I can't tell you how much it puts things into perspective, not only concerning how great a country we live in, but the fact that we are world citizens, and with the globalization that we've experienced, especially over the past few decades, these are our neighbors, and it just was an incredible experience. That's part of a bigger picture of what's going on with my life, including, I think most of you know, some expanded duties at work, and those continue to expand. So I wanted to share tonight that I am not planning to seek re-election for the next quadrennium. I've given this a lot of thought over the past few months, and I'll save my comments in terms of what a privilege it's been to serve on this body now almost for 3 complete terms, and to work with each and every one of you. I'm going to save that when we get closer to the end of this term, but we're only 4 months, just a little over 4 months from the election, so I feel like it's incumbent on me to go ahead and share that with the community, both in light of the fact that others who may be interested in the position need to know, what my status and what my plans are, but also because I wanted to share it with each of you as well. So that's what I wanted to say. I will not be seeking re-election for another term. Thank you.
Councilor Bowes?
No, sir.
Councilor Fink?
Guess point of privilege, Tom. I will. I thought for a second you were going to resign. We've had a rash of that going on lately. I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, back to the committee. I would like to get with Councilor Brown and Striplin, if I could, to please get some availability for a Leisure Services Committee and Urban Management as well, please.
Finance Committee met last night, and we discussed a number of things. You received an email from me this morning outlining the minutes and the items that we discussed. If you have, and I'm addressing this to the fellow council members, if you have questions about any of those items, please contact me or the mayor, and we'll be happy to go into greater detail on that. The minutes of the Finance Committee will be on the website for those who were not involved, so you'll know what we are discussing and what's cooking on behalf of the city. And our able-bodied webmaster, will take care of that for me, I'm sure. We'll move on into the agenda. The first item is a resolution to declare various weeded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama, 1975, as amended. Councilor Wood, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Whereas an abundance of overgrown grass or weeds, one, is injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare by providing a breeding ground and shelter for rats, mice, snakes, and mosquitoes and other vermin. Two, may cause the further spread of weeds. Three, may hide debris such as glass or metal that could inflict injury on a person going to such property. And four, may also pose a fire hazard and respiratory hazard. And whereas the City Council of the City of Prattville declared in Resolution Book 2012, page 030, that the abundance of overgrown grass and weeds at various addresses in the City of Prattville constituted a public nuisance, and set a public hearing to discuss said nuisances. And whereas notice as required by 11-67-62 of the Code of Alabama, 1975, as amended, was provided in the Prattville Progress by certified mail and by signage on the subject property. And whereas the Prattville Planning Department has inspected the properties listed in Resolution Book 2012, page 030, adopted on March 20, 2012, and determined that the public nuisance still exists. And whereas the City Council of the City of Prattville held a required public hearing at 6:00 p.m. on April 17, 2012, permitting the owners of the same properties listed in Resolution Book 2012, page 030, to present evidence, objections, and protests regarding the proposed removal of weeds. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Prattville declares that the abundance of overgrown grass and weeds on the properties continue to be a public nuisance. 227 Chestnut Street, 2579 Cobbsford Road, 1679 East Main Street, 22 Highway 14 East, 101 Julia Court, 138 9th Street, 110 7th Street, vacant lot next to 307 Fisk, 496 Weatherby Trail, 317 West 6th Street. Be it further resolved that the mayor shall have the overgrown grass and weeds on the property listed above cut or removed using city forces or the private contractors listed in Attachment A. Any property owner shall have the right to have any weeds removed at his or her own expense, provided the removal is done prior to the commencement of work by employees or agents of the City of Prattville. The mayor shall keep an accounting of all costs related to the removal of overgrown grass and weeds and report such costs to the City Council following their removal. Mr. Chair, I so move.
Councilor Wood has moved this resolution for adoption. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilor Fink. Is there any discussion pertaining to this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, the resolution is adopted. Next item is a resolution to amend the wastewater budget and to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood at a cost not to exceed $10,000 for consulting service. This was introduced and held from our February 7th, 2012 meeting, council meeting. Is there any further discussion on this proposed resolution? All those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. All those against by like sign. Resolution fails unanimously. Next item is a resolution to set a public hearing to declare various wooded lots to be a public nuisance and ordering their abatement per Title 11, Chapter 67 of the Code of Alabama, 1975, as amended. Councilor Miller, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Whereas an abundance of overgrown grass or weeds, one, is injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare by providing a breeding ground and shelter for rats, mice, snakes, and mosquitoes and other vermin. Two, may cause the further spread of weeds. Three, may hide debris such as glass or metal that could inflict injury on a person going to such property. And four, may also pose a fire hazard and respiratory hazard. And whereas Section 11-67-1 of the Code of Alabama 1975 as amended permits the City Council of the City of Prattville to declare an abundance of overgrown grass and weeds to be a public nuisance. And whereas the Prattville Planning Department has inspected the properties at the following addresses and determined the existence of an abundance of overgrown grass and weeds: 204 Brookhaven, 1956 Calumet Parkway, 702 Cranbrook Drive, 725 East Main Street, Old Wachovia Bank, 1804 Edinburgh Street, 308 Festival Drive, 325 Festival Drive, 326 Festival Drive, 329 Janice Street, 448 Lower Kingston Road, 733 Mimosa Drive, 155 North Nickel Street, 103 Overlook Drive, 230 Radburn Way, 1928 Regent Road, 103 Rosewood Drive, 219 South Northington Street, 604 Sunset Drive, 123 Terry Lane, 104 2 Street, 655 Thomas Lane, 1048 Upper Kingston Road, 133 Warwick Drive, 338 and 342 West 6th Street, 909 Wilberforce Avenue, 1795 Windermere Avenue. Now, I read the rest of it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that, 1, the City Council of the City of Prattville declares the abundance of overgrown grass and weeds at the above listed addresses to be a public nuisance, and 2, the owners of said property as they appear in the records of the Tauga County or Elmore County Revenue Commissioners are ordered to abate the abundance of overgrown grass and weeds. And 3, the owners of said property are ordered to appear before the City Council of the City of Prattville at a public hearing at 6 p.m. on May 15, 2012 in Prattville City Hall. Notice of such hearing and a copy of this resolution shall be sent by certified mail to owners of said property. Mr. President, I so move.
Councilor Miller, Councilor Miller has moved this resolution for adoption. It is to set a public hearing. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilor Bowes. Is there any discussion on this proposed resolution? All those in favor of adopting the resolution to set a public hearing signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, resolution is adopted. Next item is a resolution to sponsor a CDBG application for the construction of a special needs baseball field to be located between the East YMCA, Smith Center, and Daniel Pratt Elementary School. Councilor Fink, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Whereas the City of Prattville is eligible to submit an application for funding assistance made available under the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, as amended, through the Community Development Block Grant Program administered by the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs, and whereas the City of Prattville is proposing to sponsor a CDBG application for the construction of a special needs baseball field to be located between the East YMCA, Willis J. Bradford Branch, the Smith Center, and Daniel Pratt Elementary School. And whereas a 10% local match is required for the CDBG grant, which the YMCA of Prattville Incorporated will provide. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Prattville as follows. Section 1, that the City of Prattville submit a fiscal year 2012 Community Enhancement Fund application to the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs for a Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $250,000 to construct a special needs baseball field. Section 2, that the City of Prattville will assure proper operation and maintenance of the proposed improvements through a memorandum of understanding with the YMCA of Prattville Incorporated, who will ultimately be responsible for operations and maintenance of the field. Section 3, that the City of Prattville shall not be responsible for the 10% match or any other associated project cost, as they will be the responsibility of the YMCA of Prattville Incorporated, who will provide for same. Section 4, that the City Council of the City of Prattville does hereby authorize, empower, and instruct the mayor of the City of Prattville to submit said application on behalf of the City of Prattville, and if necessary, to obtain the requested financial assistance and sign any other documents necessary. Mr. President, I so move.
Councilor Fink has moved this resolution for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Miller. Is there any discussion pertaining to this proposed resolution? Councilor Miller?
The actual property where this this new field is going to be built, who is the owner of it? Is it the Y? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions pertaining to this? Councilor Striplin?
No question, but I'm a board member of the YMCA, and I will endorse this, but will abstain from voting.
So noted. Councilor Miller?
If Councilor Striplin has to abstain, I also, for the same reason, have to abstain.
So noted. We will still require the majority of 4 before this can be adopted. Are there any other questions or comments pertaining to this proposed resolution? All those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Resolution is adopted. Next item is a resolution to enter into a supplemental agreement with Sane Associates Incorporated to provide engineering services in amount not to exceed $113,813. Net cost to city not to exceed $22,762.60 for the widening and resurfacing of Mcqueen Smith Road South, project number STP 0A-7812. Councilor Brown, will you introduce this resolution, please?
Yes, sir. Whereas the City of Prattville has identified the need to widen and resurface Mcqueen Smith Road south of Cobbs Ford Road, and whereas the City of Prattville has entered into an agreement with the Department of Transportation to have the preliminary engineering performed for this work, and whereas the City of Prattville entered into an engineering services contract with Sane Associates Incorporated for this work, and whereas as the result of public hearings, Alabama Department of Transportation and FHWA reviews, additional services are required, and whereas the Alabama Department of Transportation has approved Sane Associates Incorporated to perform these duties, and whereas the Alabama Department of Transportation will reimburse the City of Prattville for 80% of said cost. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Prattville hereby authorizes the mayor to enter into a supplemental agreement with Sane Associates Incorporated to perform engineering services for widening and resurfacing Mcqueen Smith Road south of Cobbs Ford Road in an amount not to exceed $113,813, net cost to city not to exceed $22,762.60. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Prattville does hereby authorize, empower, and instruct the mayor of the City of Prattville to execute any and all documents necessary to have this work performed for and on behalf of the City of Prattville. Mr. President, I so move.
Councilor Brown has moved this resolution for adoption. Is there a second? Councilor Fink seconds this motion. Is there any discussion on this proposed resolution? All those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by raising your right hand. Any opposition by like sign? Seeing none, this resolution is adopted. That exhausts our regular agenda. Is there any agenda item to be brought from the floor at this time? Seeing none. This time we'll open the floor up for public comment on any business pertaining to the city. Mr. Brown, I believe you are first, sir.
Bonnie Brand, 258 Terry Lane. As I was entering the building tonight, I was looking at some portraits, photos that are on the wall, and it reminded me that recently, a while back, the council voted for 2 mayor photos or whatever description for those things to be provided.
Yes, sir.
And so I was wondering what the update is. Are they still working on that, or what's the deal?
Yes, sir, there is a special, well, I say a special process, there's a new process for producing and I don't know about the technology, but it's producing a portrait at a lower expense. To have an oil portrait made is going to exceed the amount that we have authorized on that. So in order to get those two portraits made and be conscious of, the city's money, we're pursuing that direction right now. We're looking for quotes to use that process. What you will get is you will get a portrait quality product, but you won't have to go through the expense of having it hand painted and such. But yes, that's still in the cooker.
Still okay. And I noticed that Councilman Brown portrait was not on the wall, just out in the foyer. So I was wondering, when would that be addressed?
You're saying that it's not?
It's not in the foyer of this building, it's not.
Well, then I'll have to defer that to Councilor Brown because she has to sit for the picture.
Oh.
Would you like to address that, Councilor Brown?
I just assumed that we would probably wait and see, since I was maybe a short, I hope that I'll be elected, but in the case that I'm not, I'd hate to waste the city's money. So
you're just going to wait till after the election was over and see who was actually elected for that position?
Well, I just didn't want to spend any additional money that wasn't absolutely necessary.
Well, that's understandable. I just wondered why I didn't see your
photo
out there.
So I thought Dean looked good out there anyway, so it's okay.
Okay. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being with us here tonight. Anyone else have any comments or questions for the council pertaining to city business at this time? Mayor, do you have any closing comments? Councilor Strickland? No, sir. Councilor Brown?
No, sir.
Councilor Wood?
No.
Councilor Miller?
No.
Councilor Bowes?
No, sir.
Councilor Fink?
And just one thing to Councilor Brown, I'm willing to kick in a little bit of money to go towards that picture because you would make all of us look a whole lot better up there if you were up there with us. So I'm willing to kick in a little bit of my money to go towards that photo.
I'm going to have to agree with Councilor Fink. Councilor Brown, we need to get a photographer out here. Your picture needs to be there. I appreciate your fidelity to duty, but we got to have some help out there. So let's get that taken care of. Also, I know it may be a little premature, but Councilor Miller, you shocked me. I really thought that you were going to be in the hunt this year, but I certainly understand why you won't be. When the time comes, believe me, you will be missed, and thank you for your service to our community. Our next council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May the 1st, May Day, 2012 at 6 p.m. back here in the council chambers. This time the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Go ahead. Motioned and seconded. It's a motion by Councilor Bowes, seconded by Councilor Miller. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposition by like sign.